Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly Shushak. I'm the pastor here at Edges. I see some of you for the first time this morning, so welcome. We're really glad that you could join us. And we've all made it here just in time for a new season in the church. So congratulations, you're on the front end of it. Today is the first Sunday of the season we call Lent. And Lent is the season where we get ready for Easter. And Easter is the holiday where we get to rest inside the biggest story of all, that we were created, that we, God's people, were created for unending life together with God, and that any life that is real will always take the shape of love. Any life that is real will always take the shape of love. Now, I think that's pretty hard to swallow, understand, accept even. I don't get it in my own life. So I'm grateful for Lent because Lent is the season where we can ask God to teach us that stuff in smaller chunks, day by day, tiny bites. 40 whole days of it, if we will, between now and Easter. So many people who want to understand this story better spend time in this season really studying Jesus and studying themselves. And some people during this season will give up something, and they'll do that for lots of different reasons, but the main one is that they give up something that's a part of their usual pattern to help remind them of this. Or sometimes some people will add in something that will give them some space, that will help them to focus on learning the story of God and themselves. So that's what Lent is about for some people. Well, whatever you choose to do with this season, my prayer is that our worship, our being together each week here with each other and with God, would be part of what helps guide us home. Would you pray with me as we begin? Lord, if it's true that any life that is real will always take the shape of love, would you show us how that could be so in our living? Amen. Well, in the series that starts right now, like those ads on TV, you know, the season starts right now. In the series that starts right now and leads all the way to Easter, we'll be focusing on Jesus during what was the twilight time just before his own death. If any of you in the room have ever lost somebody, you know just how important this time can be. So last May, we lost my own grandmother. Her name was Mamu. Ruth was her name. Mama Ruth, or shortened to Mamu, is what we called her. We lost her last May, and when it became obvious that she was nearing her own death, we all knew it, everyone in the family. We left her side only for the actual necessities. And every word that she seemed to say was part of covering and connecting her life and her legacy to ours. In the final days, though, she stopped telling stories. And oh, how she loved to tell stories. And instead, she seemed to be reduced to the kind of sound bites that you only say when you want something to last. She did things like call each of us by name. She told us each, in her own way, how much she loved us. And near the very end, one day, she asked us to go and get her lipstick because she was preparing to meet her maker. Last words. Last words. So this series is about Jesus' final words. 7 statements that he found strength to utter from his own deathbed, in the absolute height of his own agony, as he was being murdered by the people that he came to rescue. Killed by people he could not stop loving. So Jesus had spent his entire life up to this point, more than 30 years trying to build relationships of help and hope and trust and care right there in the community where he lived. He had become a teacher and a healer and a friend. He was an activist for change. He was a public servant. And because of all these things, some in his community were amazed at him. At times they were even in his corner. But there were many more who were suspicious of him, who were jealous, even threatened. But there was this tiny band that began to really hope that Jesus was the Savior they'd been praying for. Some of them even called him their Lord. But most in his community thought he was either a liar or a lunatic. And those liar lunatic tapes ended up getting the most traction until finally a loud and angry mob got what they were after, which was a guilty verdict accompanied by the death penalty. And so today we pick up where the record states in Luke chapter 23. As they led him off, they made Simon, a man from Cyrene who happened to be coming in from the countryside, carry the cross behind Jesus. A huge crowd of people followed, along with women weeping and carrying on. And there were two others, both criminals, who were taken along with him for execution. When they got to the place they called Skull Hill, they crucified him, along with the criminals, one on his right, one on his left. But during this time, Jesus prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." So they divided up his clothes and they threw dice for them. The people stood there staring at Jesus, and the ringleaders made faces, taunting, "He saved others, let him save himself. The Messiah of God, ha. The chosen, ha." "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." In what kind of world are these words prayed? What must a world be like for those words to be the ones that fit the moment? What themes can be deduced? What characteristics can be inferred? In short, what do you think it looks or smells or feels like to wake up in a world on the day God prays for it, saying, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing"? In what kind of world could these words be prayed? Now, some of you know that sometimes here at Edges we'll stop and talk about hard questions. That certainly is one of them. And when we do that, we get in groups of 5 or 6 people around the tables. You'll want to look around, find some smart people. And then we're going to discuss this question together. If you think you've got dumb people, just invite some more people to come on in. You don't have to say, "You look dumb." Just say, "Let's get a few more others in." I think it'll help us out. So what I'd like for you to do is find a group of folks. Introduce yourselves. You won't all know each other's names. And then bat that question around for a little bit. In what kind of world would these words fit? "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing." Go, I'll call you back. All right, I'm going to tell you the truth. Some of you look like you're struggling a little bit. It's all right. Why don't you let the person who's talking in your group finish up, and then we'll come back and phone some friends for some help. All right, let's see if we can bring it back in a little bit. The question was, in what kind of world would the words, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing," be prayed? In what kind of world would the words, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing," be prayed? What did you hear? What were some adjectives maybe that describe that kind of world? A world of addiction. Deception. A world where there's deception. A world of bullies. People don't know what they are doing. A world of ignorance. People don't know what they're doing. Fear. People are afraid. Did you say hate? Hate. A world where hate lives. A world of good intentions. A world where free will is. Where people get to do what they want even if they don't know what it is. I'm sorry? A broken world. What's the world like where this gets prayed? One more time. Disconnected. A lost world. An authoritarian world. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed all of that. Today's world. Thanks, Ben. That's where we'll stop. You didn't seem to have too much problem locating a world much like today's, perhaps, in which there is addiction and deception and lots of bullies and plenty of ignorance, no short amount of fear, a good dose of hate, people with good intentions and free will, where things are broken, where stuff is in disconnect, where it all seems lost, where it's authoritarian. In today's world, maybe these words could be prayed. Yes, those words get prayed in a world that is off the rails. Yes, in a world that's delusional. Yes, in a world that's misguided and without much sense. Yes, there's shrapnel and hurt everywhere. Yes, there's confusion and lack of direction and even then less hope. Yes, it's a world where people don't know what they're doing, where mistakes are spreading and not stopping, where out of control is the only common denominator, and that instability makes people clamor with fear. And that fear then gets recycled, right, as hate or greed or retaliation or uncontrolled power or punishment or humiliation or resentment, and none of it is helping. Have you known this world? I wonder if we have quick answers and vivid pictures. Many of you are seeing the worlds you know where this exists, because this is the world that we've made our homes in. It's a world where hurt gets endlessly cycled and recycled, and where the origins of whatever the pain is sometimes years beneath the surface. Years behind our experience of it. I think families are probably a pretty good starting place to look for examples. Some of you have heard stories of people who are joined by their DNA and by their family history, who at some point in their family story, somebody made a big mistake. And it created an enormous schism. It's a hurt that pushed everybody in the family onto one side of the room or the other. And then the big family parties get reduced into two tiny corners, and those corners become permanent. And the people in them become permanent. And then that debilitating cycle continued because both sides need to claim an ongoing victory, which meant continual vilification of the people in the other corner. And it means continual indoctrination of anybody new who comes into the house. Pick your corner. And then the day came when a family kingpin in one corner or the other died. And now should be the moment when the real stuff could be shared again. When memories and legacies and grief should be common. And this is perhaps a good example because you'd think of all the things in the world that death would be the great equalizer, right? But instead, everybody's just calcified, stuck. And it's because the family has an alternate DNA now. They're beyond their capacity to know what they're doing anymore. And the whole family is using even the death chapter as another grenade to throw across the great divide that used to be their living room. We could go on all day with examples. If I stopped, you could talk about it for the rest of the afternoon. You know this story. You know the story of pain and recycled pain that turns itself over and over into other things. There's the unexplainable boss who claws his way to the top through years of unfair treatment and unreasonable expectations, and who makes unending promises all the way to the top that he will find a better way, that this will never happen ever again. But who, after arriving at his own freedom, his perch at whatever the top of the ladder is, he then turns and engineers a system of rigidity and demands that could have been fueled only by his own recycled hurt. Or, to use an example in the world, let's look at the patch of earth that we call the Holy Land in Israel. Some of you are shaking your heads. Where everybody in that space has at some point been the victim. Everybody is justifiably hurt. Everybody is committed then to sending the anger back at ever-increasing decibels. Nobody knows what they're doing, and everybody is sick with the deep knowledge that even if they get what they're fighting for, it won't really reverse anything. The resentment goes on and on and on. How does the cycle end? Well, here in today's story, we will miss it if we're not careful. These weren't careless last words. These were the answer. Here in this first last word, we learn that there is one who breaks the cycle. There is one who is caught up in the worst cycle of hurt and pain ever engineered in the whole world, who is stripped, who is mocked, who's beaten, who's left to die, but who refuses in that very moment to send the hurt back. How? He seems like he doesn't know what he's doing. He should have said what we would have said. He should have said, "Father, stop them." Or, "Father, punish them, please." Or, "Father, forget them. Leave them behind." But he knows what he's doing. He knows that he has come to deal with the terrible sins and cycles that threaten to dismantle your life and mine, and he knows that he is our only hope. And he knows that this world that we're in is the stuff of death that threatens to dismantle your life and mine. It's the death of everything that ruins this world. And so in this unbelievable, truly unbelievable reversal, Jesus offers the kind of love that refuses to recycle sin. And instead, he absorbs it so that love is the thing that comes out of it. There is only one cycle stopper for this kind of anger that we've been talking about, for the kind of malice and resentment and pain that goes on and on and on and recycles itself. And Jesus offers the one place in the society where the hurt can go in and it won't come out. That's why he says, Father, forgive them. Because forgiveness in the shape of love is the only thing stronger than that. It's counterintuitive. It makes no sense. And it is something that you and I cannot engineer on our own. You have to have a God for it. So when people ask me, why do I believe? Why do I follow? It's not about heaven for me. It's because I know I can't live without this one. I don't have it in me. You see, we need Jesus' answer in these words. We need the answer, Father, forgive them, because it's the kind of love that cancels out the pain. It's the only thing that really cancels it out, that stops the cycle, that turns it around. And we don't like it. We don't want it. We wish we didn't need it. We don't want that to be the answer. We think it will feel terrible, but we need it, else we will die in our self-engineered terminal states. We can watch it happening in our world. But if we look hard, we can see proof in a few places. There is evidence that at least a few of us are taking up residence inside this story that leads to life. So I read a blog a couple of weeks ago about our political situation. Who am I kidding? I read these every day, not just a couple of weeks ago. So the author of this blog began with the question that she said seizes every conversation, internal and external these days. She says the conversation always starts with, and it does in my home, have you heard the latest outrage? And if we haven't heard it, we just ask Alexa, and she tells us. The author notices the chaos that has created frenzy on all sides. And she says it's marked by the fact that our inboxes and our notifications and our dinner conversations are anchored always to the next crisis item, the next piece of data. And so she says that there's always one last check for late-breaking outrages before a night of restless, fitful sleep. And then we wake up in the morning with a check on the accumulation of whatever new outrages rain down overnight, and the cycle starts all over again. The perpetuation of the cycle. The pain, the hurt, the need to be right. The blame, the resentment. She didn't say the outrage is unwarranted. She just said it's unsustainable. She said if we live in a state of perpetual outrage, we become depleted and exhausted and sapped of our energy, and we're not resourceful or creative or effective or compassionate anymore. The only way to affect outcomes and thrive in our lives, she says, is to find the eye in the hurricane and to act from that place of inner strength. Where do you need to find an eye in the middle of the hurricane? What are the places of pain and hurt and anger and unforgiveness, resentment, guilt, shame, difficulty that are unsustainable? And have we considered that there is another way? I don't know if any of you have heard of a woman called Maggie Berenkitse. Maggie Berenkitse is a Burundian humanitarian. And Maggie was caught up in the civil war in Burundi in the 90s and the 2000s between two tribes in Burundi, the Tutsi tribe and the Hutu tribe. And in the middle of this civil war, Maggie's family, 60 members of it, were killed. And she said that the ones that weren't killed began to perpetuate the violence. So Maggie, not knowing what else to do, seeing that there was nothing that was working, looked around and she saw children, all kinds of children. Hutu children and Tutsi children, and they didn't know their differences, so she collected them and gave them a safe place. And somehow Maggie found herself on the side of Jesus, who was praying, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And when she found herself on the side of Jesus, she found herself in a world, a new world, where they broke the cycle that should never have been broken. See what you think.
We are prince and princess. He gave us a crown on our, and he said, you are my son, you are my daughter, you are my preferred. Come on, I cover you with my tender.
Not everybody's created in God's image.
Yes, everybody.
Everybody's beautiful.
Yes, even the worst killer, everybody. But we are free to say, okay, I accept God. Or like children in the family, you can be a parent and you cover your child with love and so, but the child will say, no, okay, I don't want to go to school. You will take drugs. But you will always, if you are good man, good father, you will follow slowly and look, where is my son? Where is my daughter? And when you see him, like, you will, oh, come, my car, and wash him. Even he vomited, you wash him, you clean. Or every Sunday, when I am in Burundi, I go to visit prisoners because they need us. They need our love. I went in Rome also, in the biggest prisoner where all the terrorists and so. I said, I come to say to you, we love you. And they saw, because never they saw the police with menot and so and on, always. But nobody go there and say, we love you. You are our brothers. When I cleaned the killer who had burned my fourth aunt, I asked to the guardian, I want to visit. I said, you? To visit this criminal killer and so? Yes, I am Christian. I must visit him. And he said, Why, Maggie, you do that? Why? Why you came to visit me? I killed your aunt. I said, because you killed my aunt, I came. And why you do that? I said, because criminal you are, you still loved by God. And God sent me because I must also say to you, we will turn the page. You want? Because tomorrow, if you want, you can save people. If you want, you can ask forgiveness. And he looked to me. He looked and he said, Maggie, your forgiveness give me back human dignity. Now I am a human person. This we forget often. Because we are there, we make charity for those who are good. We will see, children in the street, orphans, and we continue like that. But if we only look to victims and we don't look to the killers, we don't break the cycle of violence. But if we go to visit the criminal and we give our love, then we broke our cycle of violence. It's why I am so happy in Ruigi. Nobody, even the former criminals, today they say, Mom! Yes, because we must not judge our brothers. Of course they must go in prison. Of course they must be judged and pay what they have done. But we must keep anger in our heart and began to say, they are only criminal. No, they are criminal, but they are also our brothers, and they are loved with the Creator.
Who are your criminals? And what kind of world do we wish to live in? And what words must we trust? What words must we make our new home in order for it to be so? These are the words that we must make our home in. Jesus is the one who came to show us how it could be so. The only way to break the cycle. In this moment that we come to every single week, we're talking about a time in Jesus' life that was just before his own death. When again, he sat with his disciples, he tried to teach them one more time, to help them understand one more way, to know the roads that would lead them to life. And so after they had dinner together on a really important evening, Jesus took a loaf of bread that was in the middle of the table, and he held it up for them, and he thanked his Father for it. And then he said to them, I want you to take and eat this bread. It's my body. It was a metaphor. It's broken for you. I'll give everything I've got for you to find life. And it'll always be in the shape of love. You'll never find it in the shape of hate or anger or unforgiveness. I'm broken so that you can find it, so that you can see that it's the death of those things that will lead to your life. And on that same night, he took the cup and he held it out to them and he poured it out for them. And he said, this cup is the cup of a new covenant. It's about a new way to live, and it's possible. And I'm going to make it possible for you. I know you don't understand it. I know you don't know how to do it. That's what I'm here for. This cup is poured out for the forgiveness of your sins, for all the stuff that needs to be extracted. And every time you eat this bread and you drink this cup, you proclaim that that's true. Until I come again, I'll help you. We often say at this table that none of us understands everything. We come simply trying to give all of ourselves that we can to all of the God that we understand, trusting the miracle of Christ's presence in our life to make possible the life we never could have on our own. So that's why we come to this table each week. It's open for everyone because the grace of God is for everyone. So if you'd like to come this morning, you're all more than welcome. And if you choose to come, there will be some servers gathered here. They'll simply hand you a piece of bread. You'll dip it into the cup, and then you'll eat the bread and hear some words of Christ said over you and ask for the strength to trust in them. And then we wait and see. We watch and see what God does with our lives. That's what it is to be this body that Christ keeps on using. Also, during this time, you're welcome to do whatever it is that you need to do. Some folks need to just stay at their table. Some folks write prayers on scrolls and put them in the back wall. Other folks come and light candles at the prayer rail, places where they need life. They do it as a way of remembrance. Whatever it is that you need to do in this time, it's yours to do. As our musicians come forward and our servers come forward, would you pray with me this morning? Holy God, help us to believe your prayer. Help us to let our own lives live into it. Would you use us to help turn your world right side up? Show us, God, where are the places that we need your forgiveness. Show us where are the places we could let go and let you forgive some other people and to use our lives to do it. Would you lead us toward your love? Help us to pass that on to our children. We pray in Christ together this morning. Amen.